Welcome back to the Practice Pulse, the podcast dedicated to helping owners of private medical and wellness practices scale their revenue and patient lifetime value using smart systems and proven growth strategies. I'm your host, Nancy Margaret. While our focus is often on human wellness practices, the principles of systemization, maximizing longevity, and root cause problem solving apply across the board, especially when dealing with high-value athletes. Today, we are thrilled to welcome April Love, the founder of Holistic Horseworks. April is a certified instructor, equine kinesiology specialist, and the creator of signature equine musculoskeletal unwinding program. That's a mouthful. Her approach is a masterful blend of science, intuition, and a deep understanding of the equine body. Welcome to the show, April.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So April, let's start off by talking a little bit about your journey. When you realized that the many problem horses were simply horses in pain, can you share the moment that your focus kind of shifted from traditional training to becoming a musculoskeletal release specialist, and how that led you to the development of your holistic approach?
Yeah. So I grew up riding horses and always loving horses and left it like we kind of do when we're, late teenagers, and got back into it at age 30. And I had this little mare and was training her and did all these things, did team penning with her and endurance with her. And we had taken a tumble at an endurance ride where we were cantering along and both her front hooves went in a big prairie dog hole. And after that, she just wasn't doing well and couldn't figure it out. And someone said, try this guy. So I tried him and he came and did some body work, Dr. Regan Golub. And it was just amazing, the difference. He's like, you're feeding wrong, your saddle doesn't fit, just all these different things. So my mare was so cool. I had an old 2-horse straight load trailer and I could take her by her mane. I just load her in the trailer and back out. And her personality had changed to not wanting to get in the trailer and rearing and not being able to back out. So I really knew something was wrong, and he fixed her. And I was doing 50-mile endurance rides, and I was happy to do them in 8.5, 9 hours. And all of a sudden we're doing them in 4.5, 5 hours because I had 100% of the horse. And I was like, wow, this is nice. I'm done before the heat of the day at like noon. This is, wow, everybody's still out there all dirty, grimy, sweaty. So he started working on all my horses, and then I wanted to learn it because you're always paying someone. And once you really get to fine tune your horse, you know when there is a glitch again. They're resistant to do this, and it's not a training issue. When they're resistant, they're letting you know it's uncomfortable in their body. Watch their ears when they're pin or swish. And so I kept wanting to learn it, and he's like, well, you got to do this, you got to do that. And that was up in Washington. And then when I moved to California, it was like cutting the umbilical cord. Oh, who's going to be working on my horses and all that stuff? I go, I guess I got to learn all this. And at the time, I was selling treeless saddles, Bob Marshall treeless saddles and freeforms, because a horse loses 50 to 60 pounds on a 50-mile endurance ride. So the same saddle that fit at the beginning doesn't, and it just warmed up and conformed to the horse. So then people were sending me pictures of crooked horses. I really, I don't want to see a picture of your horse. He's kind of out, and that's why you need a treeless saddle. And they're like, well, how do I fix that? And I go, okay, so I need to take classes. And then people were way out in the boonies saying, how do I fix my horse? Okay, I guess I need to learn how to get in front of a camera and share some tidbits and stuff and making the first video. And I was a person that hated being in front of the camera or, everything. So it was letting go of that ego. It's not about me. It's about helping all the people that are way out in the country, don't know what to do for their horse. So the whole thing just kind of evolved for my horse.
That's awesome. That's great how you kind of took the bull by the horns there and just self-taught almost. I know you said in our previous call that you traveled kind of far and wide to get different educations as well, and certifications. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what certifications you've pursued?
Well, yeah, so it's like $17,000 in different modalities that I've taken, equine sports medicine massage. And I'm like, well, what do you do about this lump here, on their butt? Oh, we just rub around it. I'm like, that's the hip. It's like 5 inches out of alignment. And it's like, okay, so you're missing the skeletal point. So I learned the skeletal point, and then nobody was talking about the hooves or the head, and the horse that has a really crooked head where their eyes are like this. And so every class I took, whether it was $1,000 or $2,000, was always missing a piece and putting it, the whole horse together. So I did equine cranial sacral courses, advanced applies kinesiology courses, quantum relief for horses and humans, ting point therapy. It just kept adding up that, okay, so the ting points on the hooves, you're not addressing the fact that the whole hoof is out of balance with side bone calcifications because the horse isn't loading the hoof correctly. So how can you work on heart and lung when there's a side bone calcification under it? So every little modality was kind of missing something. So my program puts it all together. We look at the whole horse from nose to tail and hoof to withers. I had a client that I'd been helping her horse. She got a really good deal on him because the experts had said he's got, the high-low hoof syndrome, which means it's kind of like you running in a tennis shoe and a high heel. The front hooves are not in balance. So, and then all of a sudden he's winning and she's top 10ing and getting BCs. And the people that had sold her the horse goes, where's that problem hoof? Oh, April's been working on him and it went away. And now they're really regretting that they had sold him if they had known that. And then she left the area for 2 years and came back, and she wanted to do the famous Hunter Maltevas race in California, which is like 16,000 feet of downhill trotting through canyons and up. It's a hellacious 100-mile ride.
Wow.
And I picked up her horse's hooves, and the frog's totally off center. So the whole column of the leg and the hoof and the frog is off balance. I'm like, you can't do that in 2 months from now on these feet, and we can't fix that. So she waited a year, and she did really good the next year. She actually listened to me that, you're going to ruin your horse if you really stress him on this hard as rock trail, on these hooves and your whole body not being in balance. And her horses did really well up to, I think they lived to be like 28 or 29. And my retired endurance horse is 30, and my friend has him and still rides him lightly on the trail. So my whole program is, they should be healthy, sound, and rideable through their 30s if we start taking care of them and noticing these things when you're younger. I mean, if you had tennis shoes on that has the outside, heel kind of like, dropped off like this, and you're walking like this, you're going to have ankle, knee, and hip issues. Do you want to do a 100-mile race, or a marathon race on feet that are like this? So people don't realize when they have knee replacements and hip replacements are not looking at how their foot hits and lands on the ground. So it was just
That's awesome.
blending all of those different classes and then putting it together into a program that you don't have to be an equine professional and know all the big words. When a body worker would come work on my horse, there was all these notes that I couldn't read. I'm like, okay, so what's my homework? How did my horse get this way? What do I do to fix him? Oh, I don't know. See you next month. I was not happy with that. So I teach my owners a horse yoga stretching program that will show them if your horse is having issues before you ride them. And then I have home steady programs that teaches you at home how to work on your own horse, and just launched the app in case your horse is bleeding or limping or colicking at the barn. You can just pull up my phone app, but it's all in easy, understand terms. If you push here and they flinch, this is how you fix it.
Huh. That's very cool. Yeah, I've downloaded your app and I'm anxious to use it. I haven't, with the holidays, haven't started using it yet, but I'm pretty excited. Tell us a little bit about the app specifically, kind of what your idea was with it and how it can help horse owners.
It's just like your child, your dog, your horse. If something's wrong, all common sense goes right out. Like, what do I do? What do I do? We go into a panic mode. Well, some people are lucky enough to have their horse in the backyard, in the barn, and can run in the house and get things. A lot of people drive, to where their horse is, and you might be out there till 10, 11 o'clock at night waiting for a vet to call if your horse has been stuck in the fence or is colicking and down and they don't know what to do. And I have a book called Horse 101 that tells people how things happen. And then the Horse 102 is like what to do when things happen. But everything was so scattered. I've got 250 YouTube videos, and I've got podcasts, and I have all of that. And I needed to put it, everybody's on their phone.
Uh-huh.
So if your horse is colicking, you call the vet and then you pull up my app and it walks you through everything to do, while you're waiting 3 or 4 hours for the vet. And hopefully by then you don't need the vet. So it's empowering horse owners. If your horse is lame, it shows you how to check the hooves, how to palpate the suspensories and tendons. Because where you think it is usually the area that broke down and not where the cause is. So if something's in the right hind, horses throw to a diagonal, you're going to see it in the left front because the right hind can't do its job. The left front's going to overload, and the same thing with when horses bow a tendon or blow a suspensory. Nobody asked why. The vet just tells you to treat that leg, and then you're stalling that horse. They're absolutely ballistic because they can't get out. Then you're trying to hand walk this thing that's jumping up and down, and then you're trying to bring it back to work, and it happens again because nobody looked into why was that leg overloading, what's going on in the other areas of the body that threw so much stress to that leg. So then it happens again. So my program is by the time your horse is bobbing its head lame, they're like three-legged lame. You need to see, okay, they're sore on the right front, but it's coming from the left rear and the left front. So you need to address those if you want the right front to heal.
So that's a great point. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the root cause system that you have in place. So you've identified that issues like the high-low syndrome in hooves or chronic chiropractic problems often stem from a single root cause. One of the things that you've named previously was the first rib being out of alignment. But how did you go in and kind of systematize the process of sleuthing for the source to ensure that you are treating the cause and not just the symptom?
So I do long distance readings, and you had sent me a picture of your horse and I gave you some quick info back, but I also I'm like a medical intuitive for people and horses. I can kind of scan and say, okay, your left eye doesn't have as much vitality as your right eye. And so with the horses, and back then I was typing it all up. So people would send me the pictures of their horse and I'm like, okay, so axis on the left, first rib on the left, that knee, that side fetlock, that stifle, the other inside hock. You just kept seeing the pattern of what was going on. And I worked with top endurance riders. I'd say, send me a picture before you ride and after you ride. And you're always dropping ribs 10 and 11 on the left. You're putting too much weight. You're locking that left ankle. And she says, I have a hip issue. I said, well, we need to keep changing your stirrups and your pad until you can ride centered on the horse because your horse cannot carry that for 100 miles. And after we went through all of that, she took like 45 minutes off her ride time. She won the next 100-mile ride. She got best conditioned horse. She went from 11th to like number 6 in the world. She got invited to Dubai. So, it was seeing all those little things and keep typing it up and keep typing it up. There's pain in this hoof. So I can find where there's pain in the body, viral and bacterial issues. We find EPM, we find Lyme, everything that's affecting the brain. Cushing, metabolic issues. Lately, our horses are mineral deficient, so the first rib misalignment is on both sides. And all it does is it's not that it hurts, but it doesn't allow the shoulder to come through freely. So the rhomboid trapezius muscles have to lift up the front end, and that's your heavy on the forend horses. Well, what's happening as we keep asking that heavy forend, to lift, they're having to throw all the stress and weight to lift the front end to the hind end. So they have to tighten their back muscles. So then you get kissing spine, which is the vertebra and the withers and the lumbar coming too close together because muscles pull bone. And instead of addressing that, they're having surgeries to cut out the pieces of bone. When, if you release both first ribs, I was working on horse in Netherlands that was diagnosed with kissing spine. They had all the x-rays and I went to work on it when I was teaching there, and the whole head and body was crooked. So we worked on it. It was about an hour and 45 minutes. And 2 months later, the vet said, the kissing spine's gone. And I'm like, great. Can we have those x-rays? She's like, no, he won't give them up. I was like, you had the before and after. They don't seem to want to share that or to ask
Yeah.
why. I've done the cranial work. We actually shift in my level 3 class the cranial bones. And horses with uveitis, clients would say, what can you do about that? I said, well, it's inflammation of the eye, and I can just see that the eye is off. So why don't we just get that and the nerve and the blood and oxygen flowing to the eye again and see what else happens? And I've had
Mm.
4 clients say, the vet says they no longer need to remove the eye. They don't have
Yeah.
uveitis anymore. And I'm like, cool. Because that's like $6,000-7,000 worth of surgery. And then you have a horse that only has vision on one side. And, so I have videos that teach the horse owner how to do the cranial, how to actually look at the horse's head and teeth. And, being heavy on one rein, that whole side of the head has shifted and dropped. And ever since we went into the knotted rope halters and in the patient's pulls on the young
Mhm.
horses, we're having more of that damage when the horse pulls back on that thin knotted rope halter, creating all the metabolic and Cushing's and allergies. If you look up cranial sacral metabolic and allergies is what comes up when you have cranial sacral issues, like people that have been in a car accident and hit their head and things have shifted or fell as a baby or something.
Interesting. So,
Autoimmune, lupus, all that kind of stuff.
so do you not recommend the knotted halters?
Not when you're training, and they should never be hard tied.
Okay.
25, 30 years ago when we had the flat web halters and the cheap snaps and the horse pulled and broke, less damage was done to the horse. It was a
Mm.
wider webbing. And now they have that thin knotted rope and they just struggle. And if you see a horse just sit down and struggle, they just sit there with all their weight on it. And then what happens is they usually lean to one side. And that's when all the cranial bones shift on one side. Oh, I have this little fake skull. And
Yeah.
when I post about cranial on Facebook, people say, oh, it's just one big bone. I'm like, yeah, no, it's not. And even on this one, that is a replica, you can see that one cheekbone is higher than the other one eye. So I tell people, go out and kiss your horse on the nose. Put your head down here and look up at their eyes. You'll see that they're going off in different directions. And you wonder why your horse is spooking or head shy. So
Mhm.
there's so much damage and so many things we have in the past 15 years with all the knotted rope halters coming up on the horses, metabolic issues, just so many things. So whenever there's a knotted rope halter, there should be that little ring, that can slide. And my baby horses, I would always teach them to pony and follow another horse first before I would ever tie them, or I'd always put them on a bungee tie so they could kind of see that they, had release, when they come forward, the pressure went off, but never in a knotted rope halter. We were out camping once and we had the horses high-lined and one spun and spun and spun and the knotted rope halter just went like this and the horse was just shaking there. He couldn't even breathe because it had just tightened
Oh,
down on his face.
yeah. That's terrifying. Interesting. That's neat. The prop that you have there of the replica of a horse skull. That's interesting. And I love the advice to go kiss your horse because who doesn't need a horse kiss every now and then?
Yeah, but if you bring
That's
their nose up and you kiss them,
yeah.
you'll see all the imbalances in their head, and if
Mm-hmm.
you have them eat a treat out of your hand down so that their head is actually in this position,
Mm-hmm.
right? You'll see the imbalance in the eyes and the cheekbones. So I actually have on my YouTube channel, Holistic Horseworks, videos of how to go out and evaluate your own horse. And that's what my program is. So when you learn my program, you can go work on any horse, anything on 4 legs. I do cats, I do dogs, I've done sheep, I've done cows.
Very cool. I had a dog escape. So that's really good information. I love the idea of looking at the different kind of viewpoints and noticing the imbalances. And it sounds like you've really worked to get kind of a systemization up where people can take a look at these different views of their horse and then come in and, put it into the app and identify different problems that they might be having and then get some proposed solutions to help their horses. So that's
Yeah, we uploaded podcasts, blogs, and even videos to walk you through actually what to do in that situation instead of who has time to read?
yeah.
Show me how to do it. That's
Yeah, it's so much easier to like to have video because you're hitting all those modalities of, explaining how it's done, but also like showing, different like just seeing you work with the prop and having those viewpoints is so impactful compared to if you were to, have it in a blog. It's nice when you have all the different modalities to be able to understand what's going on. So let's talk.
Short,
Sorry,
but
go ahead.
also short and informative. If you watch my
Hmm.
YouTube videos and you listen to my podcast, they're short, one subject, because we only have 4 minutes to learn about this subject really fast. People went, wow, I had to record it because you just jumped right into it.
It's the way to do it. People want to get to the point. So that's great. Let's talk a little bit more about your education that you've done. So you've successfully transitioned from being very much a hands-on practitioner to an educator. So selling books, DVDs, offering distance counseling, YouTube videos. What was the biggest challenge in translating your highly specialized hands-on knowledge into a scalable educational product? And then how does the mobile app fit into the strategy? Do you have like all of your kind of videos incorporated in the mobile app, or are they separate places?
They're separate because of the bandwidth that it takes in the app. So anyone that gets the app gets the little tidbits, the top 10 diagnostic videos, the top 10 of everything, and a 10% discount if they go to the shop and want to get the programs. I tried to get the programs in there, but it was just too much. So it took a year and a half, and we got my videos translated into different languages, 5 different languages. So the
Oh,
app
wow.
is also in, I think, 7 different languages. So that was a big thing, trying to get the filming and stuff. The first video I did didn't have a microphone and all the background noise. So, you learn, as you go, okay, that didn't work. And okay, filming at this barn where a rooster goes off every 5 minutes doesn't work either. Putting all that up, and then just, trying to get the message out there to the people that here's the information that you need. And unfortunately, people find me in my program after the vet can't fix their horse or after they've already spent thousands of dollars. They're like, wow, I found you, and your 3-minute video just described all the issues my horse is having. What do I do to fix this? And people say, is there anything wrong with my horse? Well, yeah, there's a whole bunch of things that we could fix and make better. I'm kind of saving everybody, because I had to go to Tennessee, and then I had to go to Washington, and then I had to go to Santa Cruz, California on the flight and the hotel and the rental cars to go somewhere and spend $1,000 to $2,000 to take this class, and then all the homework to get certified and everything. And I'm putting it all together in an easier program. So the app is just to kind of educate them to a new, better way. I'm at the barn, something's wrong with my horse. Great. I only have, this much bandwidth today, so what
Right.
can I learn? I'll do one podcast or I'll do one thing. And my home study program, I have women come back into it 3 years later. Can I still pick it up? Yes, you always have access when you get my level 1 and level 2 download home study programs, and it all comes with my live help. And people send me pictures of their horse, and I tell them what's wrong with their horse, and then we work through it together, and they send me a picture after, and I'll say, well, you didn't quite get ribs 10 and 11, and you didn't quite get the elbow release. So those are all things I never had in any of my classes. They said, thanks for your money, bye. There was no after support. So people really like the support that I give them. And in level 1, they can submit 5 case studies and get their certificate on a home study program and be put on my website as a practitioner I recommend for free. None of my instructors ever offered that kind of support. When people say, who do you have in Arizona? I'll say, go look on my practitioners page for who's, submitted all their case studies. And the next hardest thing was the IICT certification that we did. My Australia instructor helped me with that to be International Institute of Complementary Therapy, so I can actually certify my students and they can put that on their business card and stuff. Because my goal is that the students can hopefully work side by side with the vet instead of right now tiptoeing around the vets, that too many people are out there working on horses and maybe hurting horses, so the vets don't want anyone else working on the horses. So I just say, tell them you do cranial sacral, because the vets won't bother you if they're not quite sure what cranial sacral is. Well, you're working on the head and you're working on the sacrum, so you're working on everything between the head and the sacrum.
Right.
And equine means horse, musculoskeletal means we're doing the muscles and the skeleton, and unwinding in a soft fascia way, not a chiropractic yank or like animal crackers. In Arizona, I heard that they go out with mallets, and I've seen some crazy things on horses. So some body workers have given the profession a bad name, so people are real leery. I tried a massage on my horse and it was better for a week, but then it went back because you didn't work on the cause. This
Right.
muscle's in spasm. They didn't ask, why is this muscle overworking and shortening and pulling the bones too close together?
That's great. That's great that you've created a program that allows people to, people who don't maybe want to learn all of it, but they want access to someone who can help their horse. Now they can have access to some practitioners potentially in their local area. That's very cool. Let's talk a little bit about lifetime value. So in the world of endurance and sport horses, longevity is the ultimate metric. You've talked a little bit about, you know, we should be taking care of our horses while they're young so they can live long, healthy lives. How does your holistic approach, by focusing on balance and preventing compensatory breakdown, maximize the working lifetime value of an equine athlete for their owners?
So most horses are out of alignment by 6 months of age. Now imagine the training and the lunging and the circles. So we're producing mineral deficient horses. First rib misalignment used to only be on one side. And it happens on people too. When we're a child and you take a fall off a bike or a horse and first rib is right up here under the collarbone and your neck muscles just pull it up. So it's not like it's poking out. And same thing in the horses. And I have a skeleton diagram on my website of a whole horse skeleton that was put together with first rib misaligned. And you can see how the other hoof got bigger and how there's no shoulder gap on that side. So all it is harder to bring it through. So the rhomboid and trapezius muscles overwork to bring that shoulder. So that's the horse that didn't want to canter, left or right lead. So the trainers tell you just make them do it more. It's a weakness. So the rest of the body starts to compensate. But in the last 8 years, we're seeing first rib misalignment both sides all the time. And can't figure that out. And it's global because I have 7 instructors and we teach globally in Australia and Europe and Canada and Switzerland and Sweden. And so, and the first rib, both sides, is causing the kissing spine. So if you can get to that horse, I even have a video on working on foals at 3 months of age. One of those in the video was 3 months of age. And the people that said, yeah, here, we were just going from the barn with his dam to the open arena to film. And they're like, take the whip. Like, really? On a 3-month-old baby horse? And they had the knotted rope halter and he's rearing and he's fussing. And we're walking them both around the arena, getting them acclimated. And he just turned and double barreled another person there with both hind feet. And we're just like, wow, he's just really acting out. And we work on him through the video and you could just see him change. And at the end, we stood him up on a little wood platform so we could look at his feet, and the side that had first rib misalignment was already turning out with the inside crushed heel. As a foal, when they have first rib misalignment, it's hard to put that leg forward. So that's the leg that's always back, and the other one's always forward. So that's what starts your high-low. If your left is always forward, that heel's going to be crushed, and if the right one's always back, that heel's going to grow more. So then you have the shoulders. It's kind of like you standing in a flat shoe and a high heel shoe as you're growing up. Everything in that body is going to shift. Now you put them into lunging and training and riding, and there's things they don't want to do that they're made to do. So our horses are becoming sore at age 4, 5, and 6. I've seen clients put down 4-year-old horses that were in reining training. It was just so bad. So if we can get to them as youngsters, then they can live, through their 30s and still be rideable. My ex-endurance horse, Tiki, I got him when he was 8 off the racetrack. So he'd already had all this stuff, but I could at least work through all of that. And he's still sound at age 30.
Wow. That's awesome.
So if you're getting him at 15, 16, there's a whole bunch of stuff to unwind, but we have products for breaking down side bone and ring bone calcifications and helping arthritic hocks and knees without injections. So you've got to fix how those joints are loading so that they're loading correctly. Wherever you have incorrect loading, the body's creating heat, and the body sends calcium to heat to lock it down. So same thing with people, arthritic hips and knees. Our first rib, when it goes out, creates the easy keeper syndrome in women, where we kind of hunch forward and it's hard to lose weight and all that kind of stuff. And our neck shortens, and that compresses your thyroid and your diaphragm. So on my YouTube channel under people stuff, I have how to adjust your own first rib, because all the chiropractors seem to be missing it, and the Alexander technique for better posture. And if you do that, all of a sudden in 3 days, you have centered riding on your horse. People are like, I don't have to fight it. I don't have to fight my shoulders back and, tuck in my pelvis to sit on my horse correctly. So the imbalanced riders are putting the horses out, and the horses are already imbalanced. So you can see where all our problems are.
That's interesting. Yeah, I used to do when I rode a lot when I was younger, I used to do like, standing wall sits. So like to help with my posture on the horse, like you do these different exercises. But it's interesting that um you're talking about some like across the board misalignment that a lot of women have. That's really interesting. I'll have to look at that because I definitely do this and have to consciously, put my shoulders back. So
Right. So, and you're fighting it, where if you get both first ribs released, you'd be like, wow, it's just really comfortable to be here and have this
right.
better posture and stuff. So I show you how to do that on my YouTube channel, and also how to get rid of migraines and headaches with just laying on a book 10 minutes a day, once or twice, especially for
Interesting.
accountants and bookkeepers and people always, on the computers, or we're driving, we're doing all these things in these
Hmm.
little hunch positions, instead of standing up like this and bringing your phone up here. Now you're seeing all the kids do it as well. Instead of being social and out playing, they're all on their little phones. Even if they're sitting together, they're texting each other.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And it's this position all the time. It's like it's a struggle with the younger generation, and I do often wonder like how that's going to affect them posture wise in the long term. So
Well, it
yeah,
affects your
something.
thyroid and your diaphragm if you're going to bring your head forward and compress your chest and your lungs for your breathing and your heart chakra. So we get into, the chakras and the horses and the meridians, along with all the fascia and everything else. And we also blend in Dr. Bradley Nelson emotion code. That was another class that I took. Emotions affect organs. So when horses have lung issues, or people have lung issues, how much grief is stored in your lungs and other things from past traumas. And when we clear all that, a lot of those health issues seem to just clear up. They're like, wow, I can breathe today.
That's interesting. Yeah, I find that it's so true, and I there's more science coming out on it, but I feel like it's still kind of a new age idea that we hold trauma in our body and it manifests physically for us. So it's good that you're like bringing that to the forefront for the equine community, because I think it's so true in all animals, human and otherwise.
Even when I work on people on the table, I live on Maui now, and I do a retreat where someone can come stay with me for a week
Uh-huh.
and get work done. And I'll be doing cranial and mining and work on their sacrum. And I'll be like, okay, age 3, I think you fell off a bike, but the emotions of sorrow and something else is sitting in here. Yeah, my best friend, said she never wanted to see me again. Whenever we have those injuries, the emotions and traumas in our life settle into those sites. So that's what Dr. Bradley Nelson teaches about is, your neck, your shoulder, and then I blend Louise Hay's. Stiff neck is judgment of others, and back issues is financial support. So it's all these different courses that I took that kind of bring it all together. Left side of body is female issues, right side of body is male issues. So if your left knee, is having issues, you have to look at how your foot hits the ground, but also left kidney meridian runs through there, and left knee is moving forward in female issues somewhere with your family, or your mom or sisters that you haven't forgiven. So people are like, oh God, she really knows. And when I
That's funny.
used to fly 50,000 miles a year teaching everywhere I went, I would tell my host, find me a body worker there, 20 hours of flying and all this stuff.
Mm.
So then I got to have bodywork sessions in New Zealand and Australia and all over Europe. And it was just amazing to see all the things that people knew.
That's very cool. It's nice that you are also taking care of yourself, because I think a lot of times when you do the type of work that you do, we kind of push ourselves to the side for others. So it's good that you're also, seeking out practitioners in the different places you're flying to.
That's the third book. If I can do it, you can too. About breaking free of our limitations from childhood where we thought we aren't good enough. So, have you ever seen the show The Fockers?
Yes.
Okay, I said that's a little fucker on your shoulder. Just knock him off. That's doubt saying that I'm not good enough to do kinesiology and muscle tests my horse. My guru teacher said I wasn't sensitive enough to feel things in the horse. And I said, well, Dr. Bradley Nelson Emotion Code, I got 37 different counts of stubborn. So I'm really good that I'm stubborn because I'm going to figure out how to do it without being able to feel what he does and how to teach other people to do it without being able to feel what he does. So we use a divine pendulum, lean forward, lean back. Is my hand in the right spot? Yes. And is this one in the right spot? No. So you can move it and you can just say, when I'm done, please have me lean back. And was it effective? You can just see it in the horse's eyes and they take a breath. So once you can get past that doubt and we start believing in ourselves, then you can actually start, wow, it's warm here. That little doubt, that little childhood thing, you're not good enough or not smart enough, all these things that we just took in as children block us as adults and affect our older relationships. So after I did
Yeah.
17,000 in, horse bodywork courses, then I did 17,000 in personal relationship and coaching and followed Tony Robbins around for a year, went to all his seminars. I go, oh, good, I'm already doing about 85% of everything he says to do. So now I get that little bit, and their coach helped me get my first, book written and stuff, and setting your goals and all that stuff. So the third book, If I Can Do It, You Can Too, is about, breaking through our beliefs. And I tell people, just do something 10 minutes a day for your horse. Can you do that? Yeah, I can't learn the whole program. Just learn one thing. Go do it on 2 or 3 horses. See how they like it. Learn one more thing. They're like, I can do that.
Yeah. Just practice. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the human element and your automated support. So, you teach owners simple techniques to support their horse between visits. How do you use your app and other digital tools to ensure that the owners understand the consistency and how to implement follow ups, like follow up protocol in terms of, there's the initial, but then you have to, I'm assuming there are several times where you're going to have to do follow up with the horse? Like, how do you balance that automation?
Automation would be if you go to horseacademy101.com, that's when you get the free ebook of my Horse 101 book. And then you get 1 to 2 times a week educational emails, that will put out, okay, it's winter, it's this and that. But people are always encouraged to email me or call me. I had someone call me yesterday morning. Oh, I got you on the phone. I won your program at a ride because we also sponsor shows and endurance rides and stuff with prizes by giving away the home study program and a cranial video so that people can learn to better do their horses. So once they're in this program, we try to nurture them. What do you want to see on the next blog? Today we did a push to the app notification. It's wintertime. How do you clear up mud fever within 40? So my little blog and the picture and the description of how to do that just got pushed to everybody that has the app today. So we just added that in. So we try to do it by seasons. I'm not really into all the vaccines. The vaccines really last 7 to 10 years in the horse's body. You can take titers where you draw blood and see that they still have that. And the sad thing is the vets don't do any of that. They just go by what the pharmaceutical companies tell them is recommended. And if you look on my YouTube channel, there's an hour-long podcast. I was interviewed by a vet twice in Canada, and we did one on the horses, and he's like, we just weren't taught that in vet school,
Yeah.
And then he actually did one on vaccinations, saying he's a small animal vet, how he saw all the shots were causing all the cancer and things on the dogs, and there's homeopathic no-sodes. So everybody's like, I got you on the phone. So it's just nice to have the time, living here on Maui to be able to do that, especially since I'm not flying out anymore, to be more of that customer support. And everyone's like, oh, you should get the chat bot. And I go, yeah, we tried that. We tried that last year. It could not. What's a sphenoid? What's a stifle? Trying to get all that in. We couldn't find anything in any horse. There's not even a category for me to actually have automated help in AI. So I'm sorry. It's still me. You still get the live person when you email me and call me with help for your horse. Yeah. And I actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
When they do the home study program, they can actually book a Zoom session with me where someone's holding the camera and they're doing the moves. And I say it's too hard, too fast, hand a little lower. So I have a lot of testimonials of, wow, I got help in my own barn.
That's really cool. And you have to, in this industry especially, you have to, maintain that human element and that human touch. So I love that you're able to do that, answer the phone and respond to emails, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and then my amazing assistant, Lisa, does everything else. She's in Ohio. She does all the social media marketing and this and that, and just sends me the emails to check, yeah, good, or, like this morning, horses don't have a foot, it's a hoof. She's a lovely lady, and she's so talented, and she's slowly learning about horses and horse anatomy.
That's very cool. It's great. You have to have a good support system to operate at the level that you're operating at. So it's good that you have her.
My IT web guy, if the website crashes or something happens on a weekend, he responds and he fixes it. He's here on Maui.
Nice too.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that instant support when someone can't get into their account or something.
It's crucial in business, it really is. Looking ahead to kind of future trends in equine wellness, what's the biggest trend or shift you see coming in the equine wellness industry that owners and practitioners should be prepared for, particularly regarding diagnostics or preventative care?
They're just injecting it to make the pain go away, and the joint is still not loading correctly, so the horse is breaking down. Oh yeah, the hock is going to fuse. And you think that's a good thing, So I teach about, look at your horse from the rear, stand up on a bucket about 10 feet back. You'll see one butt higher, one side back lower, one shoulder bigger, and the wither's kind of crooked. And you're going to put a straight saddle on that, and wonder why your horse is going to act up, or pin ears and, girthiness. And, oh, we have to do saddle fitting. We have to do this and that. No, you need to fix the horse, and then squat down and look at the hooves from the rear. The farrier can cut and trim the front. Oh, look how pretty they look. But when you see them from the rear, you'll see a crushed inside heel. You'll see the medial-lateral imbalance. You'll see all of that. And I wish that the vets were looking at this. I've seen vets pass horses for a $50,000, $60,000 pre-purchase exam. That's ewe-neck, roachback, hunter's bump, side bone calcifications, and ring bone. They say, oh, just keep injecting them and do 100-mile endurance rides. I'm like, oh my God. That poor horse, is just going to keep working through pain. And, your horse is heavier on one rein because that TMJ, joint has dropped and the whole head has dropped. Don't keep spending money on bits and 3-piece bits. Fix the head. If you don't fix the head, the horse is chewing up and down. Those are the horses making the big muscles up here. Okay, those are your up-down chewing muscles, and your mass esters start to atrophy, and they can't chew this way. Doing this way, they make the hooks and waves that needs the dental floating. So it's better to fix the head, and then they'll say, oh, I only need to touch up one tooth because the horse is actually grinding their teeth. And how many vets do you see in there with a big, long, flat file? When, this is not flat. You get in there with the flat file and you're taking these down too short and those too long. I was at Loomis. They were having an equine dental special, and I asked the young girls, so how long have you been studying? Oh, just out in the field. It's $25,000 for equine dentistry training on what each tooth does and how to balance each tooth to match the top one. But you have someone in there just with power tools, just taking them all down, which cracks the teeth and everything. So you need to start looking at the cause. That horse is really expensive. People on Maui are paying $20,000 to $30,000 to get a horse here and ship it here from the mainland.
Yeah.
Then still doing all these things and wondering why they're done when they're 15. So, stop injecting, start asking, what's the cause? When you see all these things, no, just keep injecting the hocks and the stifles. Find out why they're not loading correctly.
Interesting. I have a kind of a side question that just occurred to me. So my horse, I use a farrier that does barefoot. Do you have any opinion on that? That she's not a workhorse. She's not an athlete. She used to be a jumper. Do you have an opinion on barefoot
I've
farriers
had
or
my clients do barefoot jumping and barrel racing. So
really?
the whole hoof can expand. And I tried barefoot and endurance, but the miles just took down the hoof too
Mm.
fast. And the problem with putting boots on is you're changing how that horse is performing the day before. Like you always training a certain way and then you change the shoe. The tendons and ligaments are going to take a strain. So when I had to do endurance, I had the shoes on, but I also had a frog concussion pad on, which is like a tennis shoe sole. So that when that shoe hits the rock, it's not going up through the nail and a tuning fork like to the coffin bone. And in my Horse 102 book and on the app, we have a hoof soak recipe that you should do a couple of times a year. It's like a detox, but it toughens the sole too. If you have any white line separation, you're never going to have that strong hoof wall to have that cut. So if you do the easy, it's like 45 minutes. We use the UZ Davis soaker boots. You could groom them or do some kind of session on them while they're soaking in it. You can take a shod horse to barefoot in 3 days and not be ouchy. So people are pulling shoes and then the horse can barely walk and the frog's not getting what it needs and the sole's kind of dropping. So you need to prepare the hoof if you want to pull the shoes, even if you're going from competition to time off. With my horse, we did 2,000 miles of competition in 2 years with no vet pulls.
Oh,
And
wow.
after we did 200 miles in 4 days, I would pull the shoes and let him run out on pasture. He'd still come in and get his supplements and all that kind of stuff just so that hoof could come down and do that expansion. But if you have any of that separation of the white line, you're never going to have that strong hoof. And my hoof soak recipe is really easy to do and it tightens the whole hoof. The first day that you put it on, you can wash that hoof. And when you take the water off, it smells like dead animal. That's how many toxins it actually pulled out of the horse's hoof. It tightens the hoof wall and it toughens the sole. So my barefoot trimmer said, okay, what is it you're doing? Your horses have the best barefoot feet of all the horses I do in your area. I said, it's that hoof spray and the hoof soak that I do. And when I had developed that program, I was doing barefoot with boots and their feet got bigger when you actually take care of them. When you see the hairline at the coronary band, the hoof should be going down wider all the way, not like an inside, crushed
Mhm.
heel. And so at 18 and 11, both my horses' feet got bigger. I go, great, now I got to get more easy boot gloves. They're like $80 a piece. And with the new program I developed, I didn't need it. I could take them out of the dust pasture, soft dirt, and go ride them on the trail with rocks. So again, it's about detoxing the horse and making a good hoof,
Mm.
because they need to move. They need that frog thing. And we have a farrier on island that keeps putting all my clients on the egg bar shoes, and if you do a thermograph, that frog is not getting the pump it needs. You should just
Mhm.
have the frog concussion pad over there for that navicular bone, not just that steel. And all the horses were not doing good. So stop doing
Interesting.
the egg bar shoes, stop trying to get another bit, fix the horse's head, get the joints loading correctly, stop injecting them, and call me for like, what is the cause of this? My program fixes all those horses.
Interesting. That's great. So let's talk a little bit about let's wrap up and we'll talk a little bit about your final advice kind of for practitioners. So your commitment in finding the why behind pain it's inspiring, I think. What's the single best piece of advice that you would give a fellow bodywork or wellness practitioner who's trying to scale their specialized hands-on practice? Maybe even people that you've trained yourself. Like what kind of advice would you give them?
One, you can't walk up to people and say, your horse hurts or your horse is crooked. People get offended. I'd be working on a horse. I'd look at the other horse and I'd say, oh, your horse's front feet don't match. They go, yeah, we're working on that. The vet and this. And I said, I can fix that. they're like, "How do you fix it?" And I start working on their horse, and they're like, and then they notice that instead of one front hoof standing in front of the other, the horse starts standing square and more open. And all of a sudden, the hooves grow down better and everything gets in balance. So it's finding a softer way to come in and help the horse owner that doesn't put them on the rebound. My vet said, I meet people on the
Yeah.
beach with their dogs, and their dog can barely get up off the sand. And I say, I do body work on dogs, and your dog's hips are out. And no, I just went to the vet and I got the pain meds. And I'm like, okay, great, whatever. You're still masking it again, right? The guy
Yeah.
wasn't looking, and I put the dog's hips in real quick. He had messaged me like the next day. He goes, "What did you do? My dog can get up." I said, "I told you he was crooked, And, I have a dog video, and it shows you what hip dysplasia is on a video where just the spine is in spasm and it's pulled up. So now the femur in the socket is just grinding away. And that's the hip dysplasia, but the other one's going to have the ACL tear. And in dogs, it's all collar related before age 1 with the atlas or axis dropping. I always look for the pattern, and I was always, but why? Why is this here? And is this the cause? Is there something else that we can find that's causing this? So when I work on dogs, it's usually a one-time thing, unless they tumble out of a car again. But with horses, they run in the fields and pastures. They've got imbalanced riders. So yeah. Locally, I offer a special, it's 140 the first time I fix a body. And if you stay on my monthly program, it's 75 a month. And people are just,
Oh,
then
nice.
they're winning barrel racing competitions, and they're doing the yoga program that I have, and their horse is staying sound, and their daughter keeps winning the barrel racing competitions. And, so it's so
Very
much
cool.
fun to see that happen when, they actually listen to me.
That's awesome. It's invaluable. I think it's amazing the work that you're doing. And I thank you for sharing your expertise with myself and with our audience. For our listeners, you can learn more about April's work in her books, as well as her equine musculoskeletal unwinding program at holistichorseworks.com. And I will put that link in the notes of this podcast, and maybe a few links to April's books as well. I'll pull those and put that in here as well. So thank you again, April. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Thank you for letting me share all this stuff that's in my head. That was the other thing about the books and the app. I was like, oh, I got to get everything that's up here out there
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's awesome. Well, thank you.
Thank you,
All right. Have
Nancy.
a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Practice Pulse.
Thank you.